Okay. So my name is Irene Mendez. I work at the Rice Global office. I'm a Rice Global program specialist, and I work with the student programs mostly, where I do a lot of the pre-departure section and also getting the word out about the program and making sure students are all set to go to Paris. And again, this is the information for architectural structures, infrastructure, resiliency, sustainability, form, and art. And I'll pass it on to you guys to first, introduce yourselves and then share a little bit about the course itself, and then we'll talk about the program afterwards.
Yeah, that sounds great. My name is Khalil Eraso, and I'm a professor in the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering. And I work more on the civil infrastructure side of what we're trying to achieve this as a multidisciplinary type of architecture / civil engineering course. So yeah, I work mostly with civil infrastructure subjected to natural hazards like earthquakes and hurricanes to make sure that they sustain the loading they're going to be subjected to their design life and they do not collapse. So I work more on the resiliency infrastructure side of the problem.
Yeah, my name is Juan Jose Castellón, and I'm an assistant professor at Rice Architecture. I have been here since 2018, and since I arrived, I have been trying to push both from the pedagogical point of view, but also from the research perspective, trying to push into a more interdisciplinary model of education in collaboration with Khalil and other colleagues on campus. My focus is on architecture, structure, materials, and technology in a broader sense. I teach technology courses and a design studio at Rice. And this program is built in continuity of the previous summer course last year in Barcelona, where we managed to start a kind of line of collaboration that we are very glad to expand with this opportunity.
We'll talk a little more about that in a couple of minutes as well. Okay, so our objective here today is to talk a little about the content of the course and about the program details, and then we'll open up for Q&A to see if anyone has any specific questions. So the idea of this course, so this course started as a multidisciplinary idea. So the basics is the following. So a long time ago, architects and engineers were the same person. So if you go back to like 1800s, early 1900s, you had very prominent figures who were both architects and civil engineers. So they were in charge of both doing the aesthetics portion and functionality portion, but also the engineering. And that is one stream of the scale. On the other extreme is what we are nowadays, where basically we have transitioned to a point where everything's very specialized, right? So it is no longer possible for someone to major into very complicated or complex topics. So basically people now focus on very specific portions of this more bigger perspective. So in that transition, basically, that connection between architecture and civil engineering, it has been somewhat lost. And what Juan and I are trying to do here is to meet somewhere in the middle where the architecture side has a better appreciation and understands better the civil engineering side, because when you go to industry, you're going to have to interact with each other. And we see nowadays that the two sides of the two disciplines kind of do not understand each other pretty well. And on the other hand, if you are from the engineering, also you're going to be able to, we're trying to make you be able to understand a little better the architecture portion of the problem and what is its importance. It is no secret that, you know, we live in a time where you don't want your buildings to be ugly, right? So when you go to work, when you go to for living, you want to live in spaces that are habitable, that are nice, and that also are functional. And on the other side, you also want to make sure they're resilient, they're safe, they do not collapse. So that's why both components are pretty important. So this title here is kind of like a play on words of that. So which one came up with architectural structures and structural architectures, where we're trying to show kind of like the analogy between the two sides and make sure that we interact with each other and understand each other much better. In between, so basically we have two extremes here, like I mentioned, one where functionality, form, and art is mostly dealt by the architect, and the resilience and adaptation part is mostly dealt with by the civil engineer. And somewhere in the middle, we have sustainability, where both sides kind of like interact. So basically what we're trying is to make sure that everyone is aware of all these pillars that we use to design civil infrastructure. So our focus really is trying to make this a multidisciplinary course where we approach design from a more comprehensive perspective than if you only focus on the architecture or you only focus on engineering. So and the sustainability part here is very important because nowadays it turns out that about 40% of the total energy consumption and emissions, they are linked to buildings, basically, which is what we do, both architects and engineers. So we deal with residential buildings, commercial buildings, and 40% of the energy consumption comes from that. So we do have a very big piece of that pie, which we're trying to make, of course, our structures more sustainable, but also aesthetically pleasing and also safe and secure. So our goal, again, is going to be to come up with a course that kind of like encompasses these three pillars, taking into account both architectural constraints and also engineering constraints. The course is going to be divided, it's a comprehensive course, but from the point of view of credits and how to sign up for it and the structure of the course is divided into 2 3-credit courses. One that is going to be hosted in civil engineering and civil and environmental engineering, and the other one in ARCHI. So it's going to be 1 civil, 1 ARCHI, 200 level 3-credit courses, which will count to fulfill any type of general elective requirements that you might need to fulfill for your majors, both in engineering and architecture. It has no prereqs, so we're going to assume that you only have a broad understanding of what infrastructure and architecture is, which you presumably will based on your predefined concept that you have learned up to this point. The course is going to have both classroom lectures and site visits, and we're going to talk a little about that in a few minutes. And of course, Paris is an ideal site for this type of course, right? So Paris is the mecca of architecture and engineering. It's where all the big infrastructure that we have kind of like started a long time ago. So it offers a really nice context where you can see infrastructure and you can see both the architecture side of it and the engineering component of it. We are hoping to have a few lectures from European universities that we have colleagues in Germany, in Switzerland, that we're hoping to bring to complement the lectures that Juan and I are going to be giving to you as part of the course. So that's more or less a little about the general components that we have for the course. But like I mentioned, we're trying to make this a comprehensive course that encompasses both architectural design and structural engineering design and meet somewhere in the middle. And like we're going to talk about in a minute, we had a really good experience with a similar course that we offer in Barcelona this past summer, which we're trying basically to replicate it. Barcelona is another city, again, very well known for its architecture, its engineering, its materials, novelty, and technologies. So it was a very great first course to introduce this type of multidisciplinary paradigm that we're trying to introduce here. We're planning to have some visits to many notable infrastructure that we have in Paris. And again, they have a very strong architectural component, a very strong functionality and design component, but they also have a very strong engineering component, without which you wouldn't be able to make them sustain. So both sides, again, are really important because if they were really ugly, nobody will go to this infrastructure, right? What makes them impressive is that in addition to be strong and resilient, they are aesthetically pleasing. So that's where the two sides of engineering and architecture kind of like come together, basically. And like I mentioned, like in the past, many of these engineers were architects and vice versa. So these are a few of the sites, and these are not all of them. We're going to work on a little more comprehensive schedule over the spring. But basically, Paris, again, has a very rich number of infrastructure that we can use basically to play around with them in the context of the course, which is what we're going to be doing. And we did something very similar when we went to Barcelona this past summer. So I'm going to introduce the one of the portions of the course, which and then I'll pass it on to Juan so that he also introduces some of the concepts and he gives you his perspective as well. So basically what we're going to try to achieve here is, like I mentioned, we have all these structures that are large scale, they're really big, they're massive, and that's what makes them impressive. And we're going to try you to understand a little better how the forces work on those systems. So we're working under this theme. We're trying to make the forces that they have to sustain a little more visible and a little more practical to you. And this is valuable for both the engineering side and the architecture side. Again, when you're going through the design as an architect, you do have to have a basic understanding of how these forces work. And when you are an engineer, you of course need to also understand them pretty well, so you make sure you design the infrastructure to resist these effects. So we're working under the theme that we're trying to make forces a little more visual than the typical kind of like more algebraic approach that you use in some of your engineering courses. And this type of approach they're very famous. They have been used for hundreds of years. These are the approaches that were used to design the Eiffel Tower, for example, when they didn't have computers or computer models. And it turns out that they're still used to this day because they help you to visualize the flow of forces much better than what a computer model will allow you to do. So Juan and I have been working with this idea of graphical statics, which are going to also introduce as part of the course, which is going to help you to visualize those forces much better. So with that, I'll pass it on to Juan so that he is able to give you his perspective as well. And Juan, just let me know when you want to move to the next slide, and I'll do it.
Thank you, Khalil. No, I think, well, Khalil introduced most of the general questions that we want to introduce in the course, but I think one thing very important is the question of the experiential learning. So we intentionally found this kind of images from Pinterest or Instagram or all these social network platforms, because I notice how much students rely on this kind of media to understand and to have more references, to broaden the kind of system of references. But there is nothing that can compare with the experience of inhabiting the space and learning on site. I think this is the question very important for both engineers and architects. And as Khalil mentioned, we are building this course in continuity with the previous one in Barcelona. And I think what it made the experience so unique, it was just learning on site, like walking, meeting locals, not taking the perspective of a tourist, but taking more the perspective of an architect, of an engineer that has the opportunity to learn from examples and buildings and spaces and materials there, like in the city and with local people, right? We will try to continue with this spirit, and it's very important for us that we don't visit so many things. I mean, it's just we will be very careful in the selection of the buildings and structures that we will be visiting. Because we want it to be experiential. We want that it's not only a visit of a building, but actually the full experience of learning and understanding a beautiful space, a beautiful structure, and the relevance of connecting with questions of materiality, ecology, material culture. All these topics will be in parallel to questions of functionality or graphic statics or kind of structural systems. Next, please. So again, I mean, one of the questions is the idea of the structural patterns. I think in a kind of more conventional approach to structural design or to a structural analysis is most of the times focusing kind of quantitative aspects, right? Like dimensioning or calculations, and it happens usually as a secondary role from an architectural perspective in the design process. You basically establish a relationship with the engineer, like you have the idea and then the engineer calculates whatever you want to do. I think this is a model that we should overcome in a world where we have so many challenges, where we need to join forces. But when we have to build this kind of material ecological awareness, it's very important to understand how the forces transfer to the ground in a structural system, and how can we make efficient, beautiful forms that are also more similar to natural forms, right? So And this idea of the natural patterns involve an awareness of why a structure is like this, and how can we bring these questions at the beginning, at the early stages of the design process. So all these examples that maybe some of them we will visit, they expose the structure. You can actually see the pattern, and it becomes an intrinsic part of the building, of the beauty and the aesthetics of the buildings that we will visit. Next, please. And it's also about the process. Construction process is not only the technical instant, it's also a cultural instant. Like when we build structures and buildings, there is always a question of culture, of interaction with the different expert levels of expertise, not only engineers and architects, but also sociologists, also urban planners, also fabricators. In our case, we give a lot of relevance to the question of materiality and manufacturing. And as Khalil mentioned, we have a big group of colleagues in Europe. And in my particular case, I have my practice in Europe, in Barcelona and Switzerland, which is almost the bracket of Paris. And it would be also in the French part of Switzerland, we have contacts. And in Barcelona, I have a very good network of fabricators. So I see also almost Paris like a meeting point of this kind of constellation of expertise, and we hope to activate it. We also have a very consolidated program in Paris, the Paris program that is led by John Kashberian, that he was actually pioneering this kind of initiative. And we want to follow and also expand a bit the possibilities, building this kind of interdisciplinary educational model. Next one, please. And then very important is the work with the students. This kind of experiential learning is not only visiting, but also making, right? Like with our hands, like activating our senses that, again, we are so much focused on screens and digital materials. And I think something that we really enjoyed with the students in summer, it was this opportunity to learn by doing, inviting. In this case, they were building a kind of very small ramp earth bench that we did together with the students. And I think it's another level of experience of learning, where when you learn by doing and you understand the materials and the processes with a hands-on experiment. And we also built a prototype. We would like this kind of experiential part to be part of it, potentially, and hopefully to build also a small prototype the last week of the workshop. And we hope that we can do it together with the students. I think the next is probably the video, right, Khalil? We have just a short video
I think, let me see. I think I have one more. About very much about the hands-on experience that you were talking about.
Exactly. Yeah, this is also important point, because the idea of collaborative learning, we had some activities that were hands-on, and it was so exciting to see how engineering and architecture students were interacting and bringing different perspectives on the topics that we were studying in these couple of activities. One was more about questions of permaculture and sustainability. The other one more in the fabrication. Something really revealing of the need of building this gap, and the natural synergies between disciplines was how the students were interacting. And we are definitely very excited to continue with this path with this program. And I think now we have the video where the students could also explain a bit their perspectives.
They did, yeah.
And they built this small prototype in Barcelona.
Yeah. Let's see.
We're here today for our last day in
Can you hear it, by the way, the audio? Okay.
this journey, where we combined architecture students like myself and some grad architecture students, as well as some engineering students, in order to kind of like intertwine these two worlds instead of creating like a rivalry between the two majors. And so it is nice to have this experience, because now we're becoming friends. We're more excited to, meet each other in the career and the professional world. And we're here now to collaborate in this shading structure, and basically called the Umbracula. And this was led by our professor Juanjo, that might be in the back. And essentially it's working with local materials.
The first part of building the prototype was putting together the columns and putting the columns up to make the main frame of the building structure. And so to do that, there was a central metal core that we put these ceramic columns on, and then put it up like a Christmas tree. We just tipped it up and made the column core. So this prototype is meant to really have two forms. One to provide shade and a place to chill on a hot day, and the other one to collect rainwater and hopefully use that to irrigate plants or maybe even treat and drink. So those are the two main forms of this project, and we're just testing this out to make sure that it'll all work in the end.
So yeah, so the students and ourselves, we had a great time in Barcelona working on that project, and the students they really learn a lot from each other, particularly the interaction between architect and civil engineer that we're trying to promote. But it was an awesome experience for everyone. Anything else you want to add, Juan?
No,
The next
I
slide.
hope we can continue.
All
And I
right.
hope that
To
the
talk about
students
the
are.
program, I believe. Let me see. Oops. Yeah. So I'll pass it on
Yeah.
to you.
Do you mind if I share my screen just so I can
Absolutely.
show the website?
Yeah.
That was so cool, by the way. It was great
Thank
to
you.
actually see what I've been reading about and like the proposal. So it's so great to see what kind of the goal is for this course. So I'm excited about it. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the program itself. So let me share my screen. So just quickly, here's just a QR code for the website itself, and I'll add it onto the chat in a second. And then really quickly, just this is Rice Credit. It's not a study abroad like with the study abroad office. It's basically like taking a regular summer course, but you're going to take it in pairs. So no transfer is needed. You're able to register online like all your other classes. Its classes are in English with the Rice professor, obviously. For this course, you'll be able to earn 6 credits in 3 weeks. And like Khalil said, it's 3 for CEVE and 3 for architecture. There's financial aid available for financial eligible students. And also on top of that, Rice Global, our office, does provide both tuition and travel awards. And you don't have to be on financial aid. You just need to ask for it in the application. So the application itself will have a couple questions about need, and if you need tuition or travel assistance, so just be sure to fill that out. And then we work with you to see how to best support you with that. And the other thing is just what's nice about this is since it's a 3-week program, you're able to do some other stuff during the summer as well. So you could do like an internship or a job in the time that the course isn't taking place. The other thing is this is Paris session 3. So that's from June 27th through July 17th. The location of the center is in the Marais area, which is a really amazing side of Paris. If you don't know it, there's a bunch of shops. It's very hopping. It's really close to a lot of museums. And also thinking about architecture, it's a beautiful building. So I'm sure you'll be able to look at it, and also civil engineering. There's a lot of stuff to see with that specific building itself. So maybe you'll be able to use that as part of your course as well. For who can apply, again, like Khalil said, it's open to any Rice undergraduate interested in architecture, civil engineering, and civil infrastructure and sustainability. Again, it's gonna be cross-listed for both CEVE and architecture. There's no restrictions for those outside of those departments, so there's no prerequisites. The tuition is $1,800 per credit hour, and this is a 6-credit-hour course. That covers housing for all 3 weeks, so you all get to stay at our residences, and each of those residences you would have your own apartment basically. No one has to share. You won't have roommates, but each apartment has their own bathroom, their own kitchen, and like a desk area along with where you'll sleep. There's also Metro card included for all 3 weeks, and all of these excursions or anything that you're going to do for the course is covered, along with 3 group meals and travel insurance. On top of that, I'm working still to see if we can add something else to that program. I just can't announce anything yet, as there's still a lot of approvals that have to go through. But check back on the website to see for any updates, or feel free to email me at pariscenter@rice.edu. I'm hoping to have more information on that soon. Again, like I mentioned, if you already receive financial aid, you're eligible to receive aid for up to 9 credit hours a summer for 2 summers at 50% the tuition rate. What I do is I work directly with the financial aid office about this. So anyone that applies, I'm immediately in touch with the office to see if they have any financial aid available to them, and they let me know exactly how much that is. And then if you're accepted into the course, that information will already be included in your acceptance letter. So you'll know how much financial aid you have. And then on top of that, if you do apply for any tuition or travel awards or both, you'll get information on that in the letters as well, like what you're going to receive for the program. So you're able to make a good decision knowing how much you already have available before you accept. On top of that too, there's other financial like assistance available throughout campus. There's a lot of pockets of money where you can look for additional help. So there's some of that listed on our website, but feel free to send me an email if you're needing help with that. And just the deadline to apply is January 31st of next year. And then I'm just going to show you guys really quickly what the website looks like. So this is the web page specifically for this course. You can find it on our website, global.rice.edu, just under Paris Center, and then Rice Global Paris Summer 2025. You'll find a link that takes you directly to this course site. And it kind of details a lot of the information that we've talked about already today. You can apply directly right on that page for this course. It takes you right to the application page, and we'll have this recording listed here. And if you have questions, you can always email us. This will take you directly to our email, which is, again, pariscenter@rice.edu. And the other thing that's helpful here is if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll find a draft syllabus. So you can sort of take a look about what it's going to look like. A lot of things there's still some things that may change, obviously, because we're still figuring out the programming, but this can give you a good idea. And the other thing too is this student program page will take you to our page that talks more about the program itself. So again, this will take you to see the courses listed and the course web pages. This FAQ section, you can find information if you're wanting to apply, or once you've been accepted to the program, there's some information about pre-departure and what to know about once you get to Paris. This travel guide you'll be allowed access to it if you get into the course. And this is just a bigger, more information than the FAQs. It's just like everything you need to know about living in Paris and where you'll be staying and things like that. But we also have another page that has just like a more digestible information about where you'll live and learn. So you can watch this video, which shows you what the residence is and what the bedrooms look like, as well as the center itself. You can take a look about like where the place where you'll be studying will look like. And again, some more information about Paris and etiquette and some common phrases. And that is it for me. Does anyone have any questions? I'm also linking the web page on the chat as well. Okay. Well, if no one has any questions, if anything does come up, feel free to send us an email. You can reach out to me about the program at pariscenter@rice.edu. If you have questions about the course, I believe the syllabus link has Khalil and Juan Jose's email as well. But you can also send it to me and I can pass it on to them as well. Just feel free to do that. And we hope to see you guys in Paris. So apply, tell your friends. And thank you for joining us this morning.
Yes,
Have a good one, everyone.
thank you, Irene, for taking care of it.
Take care. Thank you, Irene. Yes.